The sun is coming out. It's a January 13th, 2014. It's 9:30 in the morning. What else is up for you? It's time for Weber This Week. Good morning, everybody. It's a dog with you. We're camped out at fingerlakes1.com for a special show. A longtime friend of mine will begin to chat about politics, etc., etc. Steve Churchill joins us this morning, and we welcome you to our program and hope that you had a great weekend. The ugly weather is behind us for now. It'll be probably coming back for an appearance. But appearance is the forte word, as my friend Steve Churchill has joined us. Steve, first off, welcome to the show, and it's great that you could carve out 30 minutes to spend some time with us.
Thanks, Harold. I appreciate the invite. You called me a couple weeks. Really look forward to coming and chatting with you.
Well, that's great. Steve, for the folks that may not know you, let me do a disclaimer here. Myself and Steve go back many years together. I first met Steve when him and his wife, Valerie, when I was running the Weber Invitational Golf Tournament for when I was with WSFW Radio, a different medium than presently. And we started this small tournament that turned out to be a colossal event. We had something like 240 golfers the last year of 15 years running. And Steve offered to shoot video for the event as it got bigger and bigger. And Steve, you and Valerie helped out. And the proceeds went to Camp Anciawa, and I was proud to say, with your help and the rest of the committee, we were able to raise over $128,000. And then finally, because of the time it took me to do it, along with my wife Mary, we had to give it up. But kudos to you, and I know you had some great memories of those years.
Oh, absolutely! It was a great time. It was a cast of characters.
Oh yeah,
it was great being there when it was small, and it grew into this Colossus event. But and a great cause. You know, like you say, most of the money went to Camp Anciawa,
awesome.
which still remains a great cause down there in Seneca County.
It's awesome. And by the way, Steve, of course, a Seneca County Supervisor, a Democrat. Talk a little bit about your background, where you were brought up, where you went to school, and we talk about Valerie and the kids, etc. Give us a little background.
Well, real quick, I was born, raised in Waterloo, and then graduated high school there. Moved to the suburbs of Seneca Falls shortly thereafter. Because we do have the 4-lane highway in Waterloo. But I've lived here most of my life. Attended Cayuga Community College, went off to Union College, was studying politics back then, actually, but ended up in the IT field, and that's where I've worked the majority of my life. Worked in Syracuse, here locally at ITT, and now I own my own little IT company. But married to one of the best, Seneca Falls best, Val,
nice
my
lady,
wife, and we adopted 4 kids 20 years ago. They're all grown, and we got a pile of grandkids now. So.
That's nice.
Yep.
Well, you decided, what got you the bug in your system to go for politics? I say you ran for supervisor in 2009. What got you to that step?
Well, I was approached by Sue Savageau. I mean, go figure, right?
A legend.
But right. Sue asked me, and I took some time to think about it. I was really kind of leaning on the no side because my thought process is, why do I want to have a whole new class of people hate me? But Sue worked her magic and convinced me that it wasn't really a tough job, wasn't very demanding, and
right.
And it's just the opposite.
Yeah,
but I'm glad I did it. I really enjoy it. I love working with the folks that I work with on the board. I like representing Seneca Falls, and there's certainly no shortage of issues that need to be dealt with in this county. So,
well, knowing you like I have, and knowing the popularity of you, and knowing that you're a straight shooter, I cannot imagine that you would not get elected, because you obviously are concerned about the constituents and trying to better Seneca County. That's the goal, I would guess, of all the supervisors.
That's all we're trying to do. Looking to the future.
Let's talk about a couple of points that happened recently. It's been well documented. The Finger Lakes Times does a nice job of recapping, and of course I'm sure the Reveille does as well, and I know Jimmy's Finger Lakes One does it too. Couple of things took place. We had an election of a chairmanship. Bob Heisen was striving to become a chairman again, which of course he is now, been reelected. But without some concerns and some action, I would guess, Steve, to be put it bluntly, reading the script, I wasn't in the boardroom, it seems that there was some issues regarding points of order, rules of order relative to 2 individuals before the final vote got taken. Explain what really took place and your feelings about that night.
Well, I mean, it's always our reorg meetings Well, it wasn't. Traditionally, when I got on the board in 2009, you just followed the script.
Right.
Everybody marched in order, and it was a done deal. Like you mentioned, I am a Democrat. There's only 4 of us on the board.
Right.
We're the minority party. I began to, and with some of my other Democratic constituents, started to talk about changing things up a little bit.
Sure.
I mean, no sense in just sitting there silently. So last year, we held Heisen's feet to the fire and got a commitment out of him in the public space. And again, this year, although we had a script
Right.
and pre-filled with Bob's name as being elected before the election, which is really kind of a foul on my,
Sure.
I think. But we decided that we were going to throw somebody's hat in the ring. It turned out to be me. We
Right.
knew it was a long shot.
Sure.
But we thought we represent the Democrats of this county, and we ought to have a representative running for the chair.
Sure.
But that said, there were a couple individuals from Fayette, and there's a lot of issues surrounding water and sewer in the middle of the county, and I profess to know very little about it. It's confusing. It's daunting. I've been asking for years to get white papers on the issues. Show me a list of what we own, what we don't. Otherwise, I'm tired. It's noise.
Exactly.
It's a lot of noise. But there's a lot of individuals in the center of the county that are very involved in. They are aware and they know, and like I said, there's a lot of politics involved. So there were a couple folks, Don Mayberry, not Don Mayberry,
And Trout.
which they wanted to speak regarding some of those issues, and they weren't given the time to speak because it was a special meeting. And the rules of order dictate that they had to request to be on the agenda 5 days before. So there was some contention about that. We tried to push a few of us. Actually, I proposed a resolution or a motion to put them on the agenda, and it failed. But there was some support on both sides of the aisle. Keith Kubasik spoke up at the end. He was very disappointed. It is America.
Yeah.
They would have had their 5 minutes, and it wouldn't have hurt. But and what they were going to say could have had a big impact on that election.
I guess the point being, a non-politician, Weber, having no interest and certainly no background in politics, my view has been, since that happened and I read the script, and I've needled Bob Heisen since him and me are so-called friends, and we go back and forth on a lot of issues. If Governor Cuomo's helicopter had landed 50 feet from your boardroom and came in and wanted to say a few words,
Wouldn't have been able to.
I don't think you guys would have said rules of order.
No.
If Mike Nizzolo had come in via a canoe and wanted to speak on a topic in this special meeting, I think you guys would have allowed him to speak. Just guessing.
Yeah, I would think. Well,
And that's the point.
But that's politics.
That's
too.
the point.
I mean, it was
Right.
It was a political move.
Yeah.
So
And politics, well, we all know politics. We don't have to go further than the state of New Jersey.
exactly.
He's got enough issues down there, that poor
I mean,
guy.
we don't always make the right decision.
I know.
And that wasn't really a good decision, but.
Well, regardless, you got Heisen back as the chair. Do you sense coming out of this, the vote for Heisen was 8-6?
Yes.
Is there a fragmentation of the board based on what's transpired, or do you guys go forward as a 14-member group without any friction? It seems there might be a little friction there. Is that potentially possible?
There always is coming out of this
Right.
special reorg meeting, but no, it dissipates really quick. We
Okay.
all know that we got to work together.
Okay.
Bob's he's a strong leader by any measure. He brings a lot of energy to the board, brings a lot of good ideas. I mean, he's not a bad leader.
Right.
I think primarily he said last year he only wanted one more year. That was the end of his year. So he was there 2 years. I think the idea was just to get some change in there.
Sure.
But, no, we'll line up behind Bob and try to work for the folks of Seneca County.
Steve Churchill's our special guest this morning on Weber This Week. We're going to touch on some other topics, as many. They're going to run down them and get his quick comments on a bunch. A casino in Tyre, New York, rail spur. We got some gas storage on Seneca Lake, all kinds of things to get his opinions on. And we could do that when we come back after hearing from the great people to make this show possible. We'll be right back. Cayuga Lake National Bank. Bill Ryan and his team for all of your banking needs. Offices in Union Springs and Aurora. A fine sponsor of this show for over 30 years. DA Liquor, Seneca Falls. Amy Padula and her great team will find that right spirit for you every time. Tell Amy the dog sent you. Steve Wadhams, Wadhams Enterprises. your employer of choice. Proud supporter of this show and local athletics. Steve Muller Motors, smullermotors.com. Quality, affordable vehicles, both foreign and domestic. Bob and Leslie Oman, owners of the Oman Theater, in Lions as well as the New York Pilots, a minor league baseball team with a major league ballpark. Lizard's Tailgater Lounge, Waterloo. Best mott sticks around, where you can enjoy a drink and some laughs. SenecaFallsCountryClub.com. Awesome 18-hole layout, offering a 12-month payment plan. Home of the toughest par 4 in central New York. That'd be number 16. Wilson Press, wpress.com. Seneca Falls, Rich Ricky, my good friend, and his team can handle all of your printing and mailing needs. Rich Ricky, Wilson Press, a fine sponsor of Weber This Week. Welcome back, everybody. It's a Dog with you on a Monday. Hope you're having a good Monday AM wherever you may check us out here on FingerLakes1.com. As we try to do every week here, some weeks we don't have a guest. Some weeks I just spend 30 minutes ranting and raving about a lot of topics, and I'll rant and rave on a few topics in a few minutes. But we bring in guests, and we try to bring in all walks of life. Today, politics are the topic. My longtime friend Steve Churchill, Democrat, Seneca County Supervisor, is on the couch, and that's where you go when you come into this show. He mentioned earlier his couch is a little shorter or a little lower than the dog's chair, and that's on purpose, so I can see my guest.
Yeah, I refer to you as Mr. That's the Mr. Potter chair, and I'm sitting in the George Bailey chair.
Well, there's a multitude of subjects. We don't have the time to go into long depth, but I want to get your opinion and give me a quick summary, if you would. Let's talk about, first off, the rail spur. A lot of discussion, a lot of landfill garbage trucks. What's the latest and greatest, and what are we facing here?
Well, the whole topic is kind of cooled off over the winter.
Right.
There hasn't been a whole lot of discussion. Doesn't mean it's not still a very hot topic. But the rail spur is, and I like to refer to it as it's really a rail yard. It's a two-part project. There's a spur on the western side of 414, proposed spur, to get the garbage into the landfill itself. And then on the eastern side here, essentially behind Country Max, there's what I would refer to as a rail yard. There's going to be these sidings. It'll be fairly long, 4 or 5 or whatever, to hold up to 48 cars.
Wow.
100 feet long, these cars are. But the crux of the whole issue for me, and I think the folks of the county, and it really is a regional issue. I see it as a regional issue. And that is that the development of this, or bringing in trash by rail, is really about expansion and continuation of the landfill. And what I hear from pretty much all constituents, from everybody, the common theme is that enough is enough.
Right.
And that nobody wants to shut the landfill down tomorrow, but certainly the permits wind up in 2023, and I think for the most part people are saying that's good. You had a 40-year run, Seneca Meadows, in 2023. We've taken more than our share of waste in this county, and perhaps we should just keep it on the property it's on, and that's it. So the rail spur is about expansion, and I think people are against that.
Monetarily speaking, 2023, a lot of money's given to the county.
Yeah. Well, there's no money given to the county for the most part. Most of it goes to Seneca Falls, some to Waterloo.
Right. But where does that money come from if you get rid of that scenario?
I don't have all those answers
Right.
today. But there certainly are smart folks out there that know the answers. Some of the answers are that the landfill needs to pay taxes for the property that it has. I mean, the campus out there by Don Gentle Corps zone emission is 2,600 acres. And the last I knew, they were assessed, 2,600 acres was assessed for about $400,000, a little over $400,000.
A lot of cash.
Well, I mean, my house on Gravel Road's assessed for $200,000, and it's under an acre. They got 2,600.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, they're assessed for $400,000.
Wow.
Now Seneca Falls has reassessed them to the tune of about $11 million, but it's in court.
Yeah,
they're fighting it, but because they're saying it's a landfill, not worth anything. But there certainly are mineral rights there. They're sucking off that methane and selling, generating electricity, pumping it back into the grid. That's a big cash cow. So it has value. It has value, and So you asked me about where's
Sure.
the money going to come from to offset
Yeah.
the $3 million
payments.
we get, collect the appropriate amount of taxes from the facility, and perhaps we can figure out other ways as well. But.
Okay, Steve Churchill's our guest this morning on Weber This Week. Let's talk about LP gas storage on Seneca Lake.
LP gas storage. I got involved with the folks down there in Watkins Glen, the salt caverns, primarily on the west side of Watkins Glen, Seneca Lake. There's a proposal. Company came in, Energy. It's now been purchased by another company. I'm not quite sure what the parent company's name is. But their proposal is to store billions of gallons or cubic feet, billions of cubic feet of, no, actually it is gallons of liquefied petroleum gas in these abandoned salt caverns. Now, some of these salt caverns were owned by NYSEG back in the early 2000s. We're seeing seismic activity down there. There were some of the caverns where there was supposed collapse. They partially collapsed. So they aren't really stable. My contention is they were never designed to hold LP gas, so they shouldn't hold LP gas. I mean, it's pretty simple. They do use salt caverns throughout the country to store LP gas, but not right alongside and underneath a lake like Seneca. I mean, and that's what really makes the whole project really, really questionable. And it doesn't. It's a heavy industrial process. Doesn't fit into the agritourism of the Finger Lakes, so it's just a bad choice.
Cayuga Nation, Cayuga Indian Nation, certainly in the topic, on your board agenda every single meeting.
Yep.
Certainly tit for tat, big discussion, court battle going on right now. Arguments were held the other day at the Second Circuit Court of Appeals in Manhattan. The point being, Steve, is that if you don't pay taxes after a period of number of years on your property, they can foreclose.
Correct.
After 3 years, I believe it is.
Correct.
The Indians say that they have immunity to that. No bother touching us. We're not going to pay. Goodbye, Irene. See you later.
Right.
The county obviously has been fighting for years, an ongoing soap opera that, hey, wait a minute, this property has been purchased. If you don't pay us tax in 3 years, the Steve Churchill property should be considered just like the Indian Nation. If you don't pay, they should be able to go foreclose.
Absolutely.
Big discussions in front of the Second Court of Appeals, in front of a 3-judge panel. I talked to Brad Jones, who attended that meeting, along with Bob Shipley, I believe, and a couple others that were there. Seemed to think the judges were swayed, both attorneys, when the Harris Beach attorney, Phil Spillane, got up and spoke. It's kind of the way it is with courts. I've always been fascinated by courts and the way good attorneys do their work. Because, Steve, if you're defending the Cayuga Nation, they seem to side with him on certain points.
Correct.
Or her. When Spillane got up, Brad made it sound like they sided with the county. And that's the way I love to watch courts unravel. Yeah. I've sort of always been fascinated by good attorneys making arguments in front of a court. So I got the impression, well, when the people came back from New York, we kind of liked the fact they put the chief judge on the panel.
Correct.
Doesn't sit in all the time. So now the question is a reserve decision. The decision may be made in 5 to 6 months, potentially. But as you pointed out when we were in the green room before the show, that if the Cayugas lose, they'll kick it up to the Supreme Court, potentially.
Yes. It may be that the court themselves just push it up to the Supreme Court.
It could be, sure.
And they kind of speak to that. They really indicate that, look, this is a decision that's either got to be dealt with by Congress,
exactly,
or by the Supreme Court.
Right.
And it's the same argument that Madison Oneida County had a few years back. It ended up in front of the Supreme Court. Supreme Court decided to hear it.
Yep.
And
they backed away.
And then the Indians backed away because they get pressure from a lot of Indian nations across the United States.
Did they get the impression when they backed away they were going to lose that battle at the Supreme Court level? I assume that's the only reason they backed away.
I think that's the truth, absolutely, and that's going to impact a lot more than just one local reservation.
Right.
It impacts all the Indian nations across the United States.
Because it made no sense when they it made no sense to me, anyways. Following the Indian situation for years on top of years, why you would all of a sudden retreat once the Supreme Court has agreed to hear your case,
right.
if you don't think you have a strong case.
Well, I don't know that they heard from all those nations or all
Yeah.
the Indian nations across the nation until they got to that point.
Right.
It kind of makes you wonder why the Cayugas are willing to kind of take it to the same point. And the Cayuga's not a recognized
Exactly.
a tribe here in New York State or in the United States, and they certainly don't have a reservation here in Cayuga County. So it makes it even that much more questionable. But
Steve Churchill's our guest. We want to get his opinion on something that kind of not surprised me in a way. We're always looking for economic development in this county. But all of a sudden, you wake up one day and Maud turns to Claude and says, a casino in Tyre, New York on Route 414? Really? Steve, talk a little bit about this idea. What do you think? I go out there all the time to work at the Thruway. Obviously, people know that I'm a part-time collector for the Thruway. I enjoy that work, keeps you moving. But I work out of Waterloo a lot, and I was thinking about this, and I'm sure there's infrastructure going to be involved in this transaction. But I was telling Steve before we come out in the air today, I work at Waterloo. We have 3 lanes, 2 to collect money, 1 for Easy Pass. And from April through October, look over at 318, they're a half a mile down trying to get up to make the left-hand turn to get back on the Thruway. And it takes us probably 20, 30, 40 minutes to get somebody off the Thruway because statistically, which blew me away, Steve, I don't know if you're aware of this, 42% of the state has Easy Pass. 42. That blew me away when I joined the Thruway. I thought it was like 80. 42, which means 58% stop and pay to me and other collectors. And I'm saying to myself, in a summer day, I can see cars as far as you can see at Waterloo or in Geneva, wherever I'm working. Now we're going to add 9,000 additional visitors to come to a casino 2 miles or a mile, take a left-hand turn coming off 41. I'm going, what we got? Let me get this right now. We got nice and easy, a big store on the corner.
yep.
We got the fire department, which is pretty docile until the fire alarm goes off. We got an extremely busy McGee Diner going crazy there. They're very popular.
Absolutely.
We have Petro. They're busy, and the trucks go like this. Coming off, going back out, coming off all day long. And I'm thinking, we're going to add 9,000 visitors on a 2-lane highway on Route 414. I don't know, Steve. And I certainly don't know the proposal. I wasn't able to make the meeting, but maybe their plan is to do a 4-lane highway. I don't know what they're going to do because it would seem to me impractical and you mentioned to me earlier about taking a left-hand turn. I just got this feeling, though, traffic is going to be forever. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well,
it's a lot of visitors.
And I certainly don't have the answers. I got to believe that they certainly can engineer a solution to traffic.
They may very well have a 41A exit.
But that said,
right.
I don't think whoever engineers solutions to traffic in Seneca County has ever done a good job.
Yeah, right.
I mean, getting in and out of Lions Bank, getting in and out of the Rite Aid. The DOT, we seem to have an enemy with the DOT in this county. But they certainly could. And,
it's going to be amazing to me.
And but like I said, that you're hanging a left going north. It's certainly the right direction to go.
Right.
Because most of the traffic coming off the Thruway is heading south. A lot of it's truck traffic going to landfill. Or they're going to the outlet mall. So,
right,
it'll work out.
Okay.
It'll work out.
Time will tell.
And they may. I mean, they certainly there's no reason they couldn't create or expand the exit that they have there now.
It's potentially possible to do a 41A.
Sure.
And the thing that I crack up about the proposal is a couple things, Steve. We talked about this. How would you like to be affiliated with the Finger Lakes Racing? Because that would certainly dampen their spirits. Because I can assure you, if we open up a casino in Tyre, New York, Finger Lakes is only, 40-some miles away?
Yeah,
Farmington?
Yeah.
35, 40 miles?
Yeah, if that.
That's going to majorly impact them from a negative standpoint.
It could. It could.
Oh, my God.
It sounds like it would, right? But you never know. You never know how it works. I'm not a gambler myself.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, perhaps folks, they can only get 30 miles down the road before they need to stop and pop some more coins in a slot machine, but I don't know.
Now, let me get your opinion on the IDA, a topic that is dear to my heart because I do not know Mr. Aronson. I might know him if I see him. And I have been following with great interest the last few years about the IDA and the role they're supposed to play and the role they do play. I understand about economic development. I understand certainly that we want to help businesses come to the area.
Correct. Yeah.
Improve their operations, expand their operations. I get that. Yes, I'm a Minders Academy graduate of 63 with a GPA, as Jim always kids me, of 63. I get that. But I also recognize some things are common sense to me. What I never could figure out, and I got to give you guys at the board a lot of credit for this, nobody was checking on Joe Blow or Sally Ann on what the IDA was being promised. They were saying, well, we'll expand our operation and add 50 jobs in 3 years. And Steve, up until a couple of years ago, I don't think anybody was watching the cookie jar, because I don't think anybody went back and said, did we add 50 jobs? And if you didn't, let's draw some of that Santa Claus money back.
Right.
Talk to me about that, because I think they're a little bit more concerned about you supervisors realizing somebody's not checking this stuff. And maybe they're doing a better job now. With all due respect to Mr. Aronson and his committee, I don't think they did a very good job as a citizen reviewing all this IDA stuff. And I got no problem with giving money, tax-free stuff. I have no problem with that.
Right.
But let's check and make sure that whoever says they're going to do it, they do it to the level they say they're going to do it.
Make them accountable. I couldn't agree with you more, Harold.
Is it better now? Do you feel the IDA? I know you guys were kind of getting into a little bit. I know Cindy Lorenzetti got into it with it.
I don't think it's better. I mean, we've gone round and round with the IDA over the years. A few of us. I'm not saying all of us. Some folks are big IDA fans. I certainly support the IDA. I respect a lot they do. They brought some good projects and supported some good projects. Bonnet expansion, what's going on in ITT, the expansion today. I mean, there's certainly good projects bringing jobs clearly to Seneca County, but there's some other activity that certainly raised some questions over the years. I mean, they were going to bring in trash to the depot last year. IDA stood to make $36 a ton just for kind of penning that deal. And we kind of caught them in a little lie. They told us that there was no plan to do that prior to Hurricane Sandy. We produced an email that showed that there was discussions and plans to bring in trash to the depot prior to Hurricane Sandy. So there's that kind of that honesty factor, but accountability is number one. I mean, if you're going to give somebody a break, then you ought to be able to walk in at the end of the year and check it and have evidence that what you gave the break for was done. I mean, essentially, these are supposed to be big projects. They aren't supposed to be operation expenses. Right. We also question assisting the landfill. The landfill's not going to go anywhere. They have, I would think, a huge. They don't have any cash flow issues. They don't need IDA money. That money, for all intents and purposes, anything you give to an entity has to be made up in taxes. If you're given a tax deferment, somebody's making up the difference, and that's the citizens of Seneca County. And I think we're all paying more taxes than we
need to.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all dying on the vine. So
we're going to run a few minutes late on this show. I'm going to run a few sports topics. I got to get Jimmy Senecropi, who's been smiling from ear to ear since over the weekend when the North Carolina Tar Heels, a wonderful basketball program, came into the Dome and got slapped around by Syracuse. Jimmy, and I know we're going to go a few minutes late today, but I don't think you're mine since you own the place and the fact that you want to tell us about Syracuse, because the dog takes a lot to be impressed, and you know I'm not a big SU football fan, but I give respect to Boeheim. It seems to me they've got the right stuff, and I certainly think, Jimmy, you would agree, they're not going to go undefeated this season, I don't think.
I don't know who's going to beat them. What team is going to beat them?
I know they play good
basketball. The only way Syracuse will lose a game is if they're off their game. Right. Because if they play good, nobody can beat them with that system. If they play 40 minutes of giving full effort in that 2-3 zone, and they have even just half of their shooters on and not off, nobody will beat them. Now, that might not happen.
Sure.
I mean, they started off that North Carolina game poorly, and they've had stretches of games where they haven't played their best, but they still win. And what I find kind of interesting is everybody's lost this year for the most part. Arizona's undefeated, Wichita State's undefeated, but Ohio State's now lost twice. Duke's lost 4 times. All these teams that were rated highly in the preseason have 3 or 4 losses now, but not Syracuse. And a lot of games where we could have lost, and the Miami game's a good example, and so is the going back to November, the St. Francis game, where we were tied or losing late in the second half. Once it got down 5 minutes, they kind of clamped down and just took care of business.
They're playing great basketball.
And it's amazing because we're led by a freshman point guard who's probably, I wouldn't trade him for any point guard in the country, senior graduate student, and I'd like Tyler Ennis.
Got a lot of game.
So,
hey, and by the way, SU continues to propel. By the way, speaking of basketball, we got a few more topics to run by. Finger Lakes basketball coverage continues tomorrow night in Waterloo. The Indians of Waterloo's boys basketball team having a tough year of it, winless so far. Newark comes into town. We'll have that action for you. I'll be joined by Matt Verkey, Jim Senecropi, along with Jeremy Hunt for that broadcast here on FingerLakes1.com. You get the pictures and the audio. We'll be broadcasting that game at 7:30 tomorrow night in Waterloo as Newark arrives for that game. And these guys have got a great game. That's our last game this week, and then a week from Wednesday, Clyde Savannah Lions. That should be
Lions at Clyde for the Wayne County title, maybe.
Oh, that should be a great game. A couple of things. Let me remind everybody that a week or so ago, we marked the second anniversary of losing my son-in-law, Matt Foe, early 40s, brain tumor. And, of course, the family has put together a Matt Foe Memorial Scholarship broomball tournament. If you don't know what broomball is, it's like hockey with sneakers. It is really a neat game. It's at the Geneva Recreation Complex. This year's event is scheduled for Sunday, January the 19th. That, of course, is this coming Sunday. It's obviously at South Exchange Street in Geneva. It's going to take place between 3:30 and 6:30. That's next Sunday. They're going to have raffles and pizza and all kinds of good stuff. So if you got some free time and you want to donate a few bucks, please be a part of that. Obviously, I miss Matt, my son-in-law. He was a great young man. He's tragically taken at a very early age. And the monies that are raised will be donated to the Matt Foe Scholarship Fund. The scholarship is available yearly for Geneva High School seniors. So, again, that's coming this Sunday. So if you're in the Geneva area or in Seneca Falls and you want to take a little trip up there on a Sunday afternoon, we'd love to have you up there. It's for a great cause, and it's for, trying to help out this unbelievable, tragic disease. By the way, an update on Lauren Deming, outstanding high school basketball player for the Waterloo girls varsity team. She, of course, had the high ankle sprain in the Geneva game. Talked to her dad a couple times the last few weeks, getting updates on her. Got good news this morning. She's got the clearance to play ball. So Lauren Deming will be playing ball in the very next game. She's ready to roll again. So good luck to you, Lauren, and we'll look forward to seeing her. And I get a chance to do the Waterloo Newark basketball game on February the 11th, which I'm looking forward to as well. Quick comment. A-Rod, new nickname, A-Dead. Don't even think about him playing baseball again.
Did you see 60 Minutes last night?
I haven't yet, but it's a great show, I understand.
It doesn't look too good for old A-Rod.
A-Rod, A-Dead. 100 attorneys have been on the air. There's no chance. Now, there might be a federal judge, a wacky federal judge out there, man or woman, that may have an A-Rod jersey on sitting at the bench and may put a temporary injunction. That could happen. Judges are weird, you know what I mean? You never know. There's always a judge that comes out with a decision. But there's 100 legal opinions that I've watched all weekend. 100, literally, I've counted them. Not one of these attorneys have said there's a chance in the world that a court would rule in favor of A-Rod. Reason? Steve's a baseball owner. I'm a baseball player. That's part of the Major League Baseball contract. It says that we agree you take it to arbitration. This isn't forced on the baseball players. This was agreed upon in a contract. So there's really zero chance in the legal mind that a court would ever overturn an arbitrator's decision.
Right.
And I don't see it happening. I don't see him playing baseball again unless he goes to Japan. I really don't. $24 million a year? I'm sorry. By the way, NFL football Final Four, you could not expect a better Final Four. These are like four horses paying $3 to win. These are the chalks, 3 o'clock Sunday. Denver, 4.5-point favorite against New England. Seattle, 3.5-point favorite against San Fran. The best day for football. And, of course, I got to work 11 to 7 at the Thruway. But all seriousness, folks, I'm going to tell you, you're going to love these Final Four because everybody, Jimmy, who procrastinated who was going to get in the Super Bowl, those teams are a part of it.
Yeah, and then that's the matchups everybody want to see. And I think one of the best
awesome.
Rivalries in sports, or in football, maybe in sports recently, that doesn't get a lot of publicity is San Francisco-Seattle.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's because it's West Coast, we're East Coast, but that is a bitter, bitter rivalry. And what a better stage for it than the AFC Championship game.
Experts are saying it would be great for Seattle, Denver for the Super Bowl. Peyton Manning versus Russell Wilson and that fantastic crowd of Seattle. Of course, the game will be in New York, MetLife Stadium, the home of the Giants and Jets. So should be a great weekend. Steve Churchill's our guest. We took a few minutes to talk about the world of sports, which we try to delve in occasionally. Steve, anything? Do you have any goals? Listing a couple of top goals as you move into a new term.
Well, Harold, one of the things that I try to do as a politician and representative of the people of Seneca County is to look to the future.
Right.
I mean, a lot of things that are happening today are happening, in spite of us, or
Sure.
maybe with a little bit of our help. But where we really make a difference is the decisions that are going to affect the folks in the future. So we really got to take the time. So those, I kind of look at those issues. I mean, it is the landfill and the expansion that's big on my radar. The storage of the gas down along Seneca Lake. Certainly, this region is absolutely beautiful. My wife and I spend all summer riding around our little MG. Love it. Top down. Never put the top up. Even if it rains, we get caught occasionally. But it's absolutely beautiful out there. The wineries, the vistas, they can't be beat. They're second to none. And I think it's really beginning to come into its own. And we have to take our time and really plan and preserve and keep it. Otherwise, we will end up destroying it. So that's my goals.
Well, thank you for joining us, and appreciate you carving out 30 minutes and pass on the word to the rest of the supervisors. We'd love to have them on the couch.
I'll get them here.
You didn't get bit by the dog, so you're good to go.
Absolutely not. And I know Cindy would love to get in here and talk a little basketball with you, so I'm going to push her.
You tell her I'm upset with her. I called her. She never returned my call.
Huge SU fan. I mean, she's at every game she can
you tell her the dog left her a message about coming on because I love her outspoken opinions. Kind of like the dog.
I will challenge her. She'll be in here.
I hope so.
All right.
And you can come back with her.
All right. Thank you.
We'll have the Frickin' Frack show.
All righty.
You get Senator Heisen here as well.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Well, I appreciate it. We're running late today, but there's a purpose for running late when there have some stuff we want to talk to a good friend of mine, a good politician. He does a wonderful job thinking about his constituents and how we can better Seneca County as we move forward. All right, folks. Well, you have a great week, everybody. Hopefully next week we'll have a guest. We'll let you know as the week progresses. We got some things in the pipeline. We'll let you know, and if not, we'll just talk SU basketball for next 30 minutes next week. You take care, everybody. Enjoy your week. Enjoy the weather. It's not supposed to be all that bad. So, speaking for Steve Churchill, I'm the dog. This is Weber This Week. Enjoy your day.